It's the $3.95 DIY pop filter. Fits on any microphone ever built, and it works just as good as those that cost $30. Build it yourself in no more than 1 hour. The $3.95 DIY pop filter.
This filter has 6 parts: a 5-inch diameter plastic embroidery hoop, a pair of woman's nylon stockings, a short length of 5/8-inch diameter dowel, a small piece of 1/2-inch thick plywood, a 1 5/8-inch long drywall screw, and a 1/2-inch long number 6x32 machine screw. All the parts can be had for less than $4 US. The filter will fit any studio condenser microphone with an XLR connector and any other studio microphone that mounts directly onto the shaft of a standard microphone stand. Once you've made it, installation is easy. Simply insert the XLR connector or the microphone stand shaft into the large hole on the microphone bracket. Position the pop filter where you want it to be and secure it in place by tightening the 632 machine screw. To build our pop filter, we'll combine the embroidery hoop and one of the nylon stockings to form the filter element. We'll mount that filter element on the mounting post that we'll make out of the dowel. Then we'll use the drywall screw to mount the mounting post onto the mounting bracket that we'll make out of the plywood. Finally, we'll connect the machine screw to a mounting hole in the mounting bracket to secure it into place. To begin, we'll make the filter element. We start with the embroidery hoop that comes with an inside and outside loop. We also have a pair of nylon stockings. Take one leg of the stockings and cut about a 10-inch piece from the toe end of the stocking. Open up the end of the cut stocking and push the inner loop into it. Notice there's a seam on the toe of the stocking. Move it around until the seam is along the circumference of the loop. Now pull the stocking tight and twist it around. Secure the stocking with a black cable tie. Take the outer loop and loosen the adjustment screw until the inner loop can fit inside. Put the inner loop inside with the stocking nut lining up with the split area of the outer loop. Cut off the excess stocking and the excess cable tie. Tighten the adjustment screw and the filter element is complete. Now this process is the same for any microphone. Now we're going to make the mounting post and bracket for our microphone with an XLR connector. I'm going to use my AKG Perception 220 condenser mic I showed earlier. Measure out from the front of the XLR connector to where you want the filter element to sit. In this case, I've measured 2 inches out and I'll call that dimension L for length. Now measure up from the top of the XLR connector to where the microphone element is. I've measured 5 inches and I'm going to call this dimension H for height. As an example of a studio mic that mounts directly on a microphone stand shaft, I have a vintage Electro Voice Model 664 microphone. It's big and bulky, but it still works great with our pop filter. Measure out from the front of the microphone stand shaft to where you want the filter element to sit. For the Model 664, I've measured about 7 inches out, and I'll call this dimension L for length. Now measure up from the bottom of the mic where it connects to the stand to where the microphone element is. I've measured about 3 inches, and I'll call this dimension H for height. Just to show that this works for any mic, here's a pop filter I made for the Model 664. Now let's get back to the pop filter for my Perception 220. Let's start by making the mounting bracket. Out of the 1/2 inch plywood, cut a piece that's 1 1/8 inch wide and 1 inch longer than that L dimension you measured earlier. In our case, the L dimension was 2 inches, so I've cut a piece 1 1/8 inch wide by 3 inches long. Next, we draw a line in the center of that 1 1/8 inch width. Then we draw a line 3/8 inch from one end of the blank and another line 5/8 inch from the other end of the blank. We're going to use those two line intersections to drill 2 holes. On the end where we marked 3/8 inch in, drill a 3/16 inch hole that's later to be used for the drywall screw. On the other end, we drill a 3/4 inch hole to go over the XLR connector. Now for the Model 664 or any other mic that screws onto the microphone stand shaft, that hole would have been 5/8 inches instead, since the standard microphone shaft is 5/8 inches in diameter. Now the bracket is about done, but it looks kind of clunky. So I've made a 3/4 inch diameter semicircle on the 3/8 inch end and a 1 1/8 inch semicircle on the other end. I've connected those two semicircles with 2 lines. Here you can see I've cut away the excess wood using the lines I drew. Now I'm going to drill a 3/32 inch diameter hole on the side of the big hole and thread the machine screw into that hole so it's just flush with the inside of the big hole. The last thing we'll do on the mounting bracket is to countersink the smaller hole so the head of the drywall screw sits flush with the bottom of the mounting bracket. Now it's time to make the mounting post. Remembering the H dimension we measured, we'll take away 1 1/4 inches and cut the 5/8 inch down to that result. My H measurement was 5 inches, so I cut this down 1 1/4 inches shorter than that, or 3 3/4 inches long. On the end that we'll mount the filter element to, we're going to drill a very small hole that we'll thread the filter element's adjustment screw into. Here I've used a 1/16 inch drill bit to drill this hole. Drill this hole at least 1 inch deep. On the other end, drill a 3/32 inch hole that will screw the drywall screw into. Drill this hole about 1.5 inches deep. Now for the final assembly, screw the adjustment screw of the filter element into the smaller hole. Pass the drywall screw through the microphone bracket and into the remaining hole in the dowel. Drive that screw tightly into the dowel. Of course, you can paint the wood pieces black or any other color to make the pop filter look a lot nicer. In fact, I made a pop filter for every one of my microphones. And for $3.95 or less each, why wouldn't I? Have fun.